fundraising is not a quick fix. If we really want to move our organizations into like these huge sustainable trajectories of growth and really scale by millions, it takes time. There is no quick fix. This is deep rooted. I kind of call it like, the things we can't see under the iceberg and the waterline. These are things that really have to shift, and that takes time, and they're business aligned shifts. And so, to me, the most creative and amazing thing I've seen the last couple of years is really leaders saying, "Gosh, we don't want to do it like we were doing this before COVID or 2020. We can't do more and less. We really want to be more, kind of upfront and sharing with donors what we need."
Are you looking for ways to shorten your marketing learning curve and help your organization survive and thrive? Welcome to Relish This, the Purpose Marketing Podcast, a show for purpose-focused leaders who want to use marketing techniques to fuel their organization's growth. If you're a returning listener and you haven't subscribed already, we'd love to have you. Also, please consider leaving a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Now here's your host, author and marketing specialist, Stu Swineford.
Hey everybody, Stu here. My guest today is Sherry Quam Taylor. She's the president of Quam Taylor Consulting and Coaching, and she helps nonprofits grow from a growth strategy and revenue coaching perspective. She takes people from bringing in seven figures to bringing in multi-seven figures into their organizations. And two of the things that we talked about, one was this idea of coming at your fundraising from a needs-based perspective. So starting with what you need and then budgeting for that need, even though you're not quite there yet, will help you position your fundraising in such a way that you meet those needs and you then have astronomical growth. And the second piece is really understanding that most of your donors are probably never giving their best gift unless you're asking them to give your best gift. So if you're framing conversations in the idea of, oh, well, you gave $1,000 last year, do you think you could give $2,000 this year? Well, maybe those people could give $20,000. So framing your conversations, reinvigorating that storytelling to really get to that best gift so you stop leaving money on the table is what Sherry's all about. This was a super fun conversation. She's amazing. I hope you have as much fun with it as I did. Here we go. Sherry, how are you today?
I'm good, Stu. How are you doing?
I am doing great. It's a beautiful day up here in the mountains, and I'm excited to talk with you. You're from the Chicago area.
I am. We're just,
and it sounds like it maybe isn't so beautiful there today. So,
well, it's Illinois. These are the months when I am like saying to my husband, where are we retiring? Because it certainly isn't here, is it?
Well, it's funny because my brother lives in the area, as we mentioned, kind of as we talked before the show here, and he has had similar conversations with his wife, I believe. So they're always on the lookout for where might they go.
And the older I get, the crankier I am about winter. I will fully admit. So stay tuned to see where I move here in 10 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. I actually, my wife and I went to a show, a concert in Chicago way back in the late 90s, and we flew in and they shut Heathrow down like 4 minutes after we landed.
Oh my goodness. O'Hare.
And it snowed.
O'Hare.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. O'Hare. And it snowed like 2 feet. And it was amazing. We stayed downtown and just got to walk around, and everything was shut down, but it was really, really cool. So it was a fun visit to Chicago.
Very
for sure.
cool. Very cool.
So tell us a little bit about what you do. I know that your tagline is that you help nonprofit leaders kind of go to seven figures in terms of their fundraising. Tell us more about that. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's so much fun. So I have my own consultancy, and in essence, I come alongside CEOs of nonprofits who typically are already raising millions, but they need more money, and they need usually very specific kinds of money. And I guess I'll just jump right into it. They need more unrestricted money for overhead. They need more flexible funding or more flexible revenues. So they can really invest in all the things and like infrastructure and growth and all the things that it really does take to next level. And so a lot of leaders come to me who maybe have created an amazing strategic plan and really have dynamic growth initiatives on the horizon, but it feels a little like, gosh, do we know how to get there? Does my
Hmm.
team know how to get there? And so I always say I love working with people who are already doing so many things right, but they do want a coach and somebody objective to really come alongside them and show them how could they be securing larger unrestricted gifts from investment level donors.
Right. So are they in this bind because they've been relying too much on grants, or is it restricted donations, or what typically gets them into this particular pickle?
A few different profiles. One of them, who I was speaking to today, wonderful. They get so much funding, federal funding, government funding. That's been great, but it's never enough. It never is enough to invest in staff or really hire like they'd like to, or frankly,
Hmm.
serve the people that they're serving in a greater way. Sometimes it is heavy foundation funding where maybe it's like program revenue or heavy multi-year contracts with foundations. And then even pre 2020 and kind of feeling that in 2020, 2021, maybe it was we were way too dependent on one giant gala,
Right.
and we all know what happened there. And so I always say they were too dependent on one thing or too dependent on two things when it wasn't as pressing, a couple years back, but they really are, they have plans to grow and they really do need great flexibility to take advantage of really what's out there for organizations right now.
Right. So what types of leaders do you work with typically? Or it's obviously in the executive director
Hmm.
zone, probably, or heads of revenue or
Yeah.
whatever that title might be at your particular nonprofit. Are they usually very seasoned? I mean, you mentioned they're pulling in millions already in a lot of cases. So I would say that that's larger nonprofits.
Yeah,
Is that accurate?
it varies, and I would say that I'll answer that of like my favorite client who comes to me. Um, is someone who actually has pivoted out of corporate. I pivoted out of corporate
Hmm.
12, 15 years ago. And so it's like, oh, we've come into nonprofit, we're doing a lot of things right, we're learning the ropes. Um, but I kind of don't know what I don't know. There's it feels similar, but there's some differences.
Right.
Um, and then the other profile, which I guess I should say I love just as much, is maybe somebody who is an absolute and utter program expert. They are experts in their field. These are the doctors, social workers, leaders who maybe founded a nonprofit or are leading an organization, and they're great at their programs, but they just simply haven't ever needed to know how to do major gift work or kind of relationship based fundraising. And so the grant writing and the more transactional types of fundraising maybe just feels more comfortable because they've simply never been trained how to do that.
Right.
And so,
Right. So
yeah.
that sounds great. What does the program look like?
Hmm.
How do you transition people from their current state of
Yeah.
frustration to this amazing aspirational future?
Let me tell you, Stu. Yeah, well, so I usually always start working with the CEO. That's usually who reaches out to me, or executive
Mhm.
director, called different things. And I will also, I always say I work with three groups. One being the executive director, and then I want to work with their team. I want to work with their development staff, and then I want to work with their board. It's funny. I used to, years ago, say, well, if you want me to train your board, I'll do that too. But I actually this past year started requiring it because A, my clients were getting better results when I did that. But B, we need them too. I always say one of the three of those entities, if you will, really aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. We're going to leave
Right.
money on the table. And so my work looks a lot like working with leadership up front to really see what are the areas, maybe not even fundraising areas, but what are the things we might be doing that are keeping healthy revenue generation from growing or keeping donors from giving their best gift? It could be how we're budgeting. Are we budgeting in, well, we hope we can grow, and gosh, I'm afraid to put, some of these growth initiatives. Are we being too frugal in the way we're budgeting, which is then not propelling the growth? So I
Hmm.
do a lot of behind the scenes type of, is our business we're running aligned with how we're generating revenue? And then I usually kind of pivot that into, okay, great. Now that we know really how we're going to finance the growth, what it should look like, where we want the money coming from, now how do we really equip the team to align their hours with dollars?
Hmm.
And so it looks a lot like coaching and a lot like, where are we doing really well and where do we need to improve? And so I usually have the privilege of working with organizations at least 12 months, simply because change takes that long.
Right.
But I also feel like it really does take that long for entire teams to get in a new rhythm and really see and learn what maybe they need to stop doing so that they have time to start doing other more strategic fundraising initiatives.
Yeah, that sounds super interesting. I think that applies to a lot of for-profit businesses as well, where
You're so
it's like
right.
people don't take enough time to let things cook, right?
Yeah.
You put something in place, and if you don't get immediate results, you're onto looking for that next thing, and just making sure that you're committed to that change and what that is actually going to entail
Yeah.
from your
All of
whole
our
team.
businesses, I suppose, we could say that.
Yeah.
But it takes time. And, I would say just to that point that you're bringing up, I think like just over the last couple of years, I think a lot of the podcasts and webinars I've been on, I've been thankful to be on so many. There's always a question about like, what's the most creative or out there kind of fundraising thing you've seen? Um, and I don't love the question because it really is, it's kind of like, I guess I'll say like anti my method, but what I mean by that is like fundraising is not a quick fix. If we really want to move our organizations into like these huge sustainable trajectories of growth and really scale by millions, it takes time. There is no quick fix. This is deep rooted. I kind of call it like, the things we can't see under the iceberg and the waterline. These are
Right.
things that really have to shift, and that takes time, and they're business aligned shifts. And so, to me, the most creative and amazing thing I've seen the last couple of years is really leaders saying, "Gosh, we don't want to do it like we were doing this before COVID or 2020. We can't do more and less. We really want to be more, kind of upfront and sharing with donors what we need." And gosh, our missions have never been so worthy of being supported so fully. And
Right.
so I'm just so proud of, so many of my clients or people who have come to me saying, we want to do it differently heading forward. We want to lead with unrestricted gifts, and we want to not be afraid of the percentage conversation and all the things that I think in the past, too many of us were really kind of handcuffed by.
Yeah. It's funny on the the marketing front. A lot of times the most boring thing is the is the thing that's going to produce the
Yeah.
best results, and everyone's looking for that sexy new
Yeah.
thing that's out there that's going to turn the needle, or move the needle. And frankly, it's, well, go back to the well
Yeah.
and start making some phone calls. And and I know that's not necessarily marketing, but a lot of times that's what brings in donors and revenue. So
You're so right.
um,
You're so
yeah, it's
right.
pretty funny.
It's one person said to me recently, is that I hope you don't take this personally, but I feel like your approach is quite practical. It's quite kind of straightforward. And I thought, oh my gosh, I would never take offense to that. That actually is like the biggest compliment because it really is practical. And I think sometimes we're looking for the flashy or we're looking for the, I don't know, the something sparkly, and sometimes really just one foot in front of the other, and being consistent and steady Eddie is the name of the game in fundraising.
Yeah, for sure. So what does that year-long process look like for you? What does an engagement look like?
Yeah, happy to answer that. I would say that it's at the front half of it. The first half probably is pretty intensive, and I mean that in we're really rolling up our sleeves and making sure that you can fund what's in your strategic plan, and you can move into a funding model that gives you the most flexibility. And we're starting to raise way more dollars, the types of dollars, I should say, that really are going to give you the ability to pivot in tough times or invest in times of growth. And
Hmm.
so it looks a lot like strategy and planning and advisement and coaching and teaching, and really rolling up my sleeves to understand maybe where money is sitting on the table that perhaps they haven't been grabbing. I guess I'll say, I don't love that word, but like they haven't been taking
Right.
advantage of. Where are those opportunities? Where are we perhaps treating donors like one size fits all? Are we soliciting? Are we open to having investment level conversations? Are we walking
Right.
donors through the financials? All those things. And so it's pretty. I use the word intensive because it's like intense. It's not like, oh no, we're working 80 hours, but it's like it's an intense shift and a lot of mindset work and shifting on. We used to do things this way, and now we do things this way. And then it kind of tapers out just because my clients are in new rhythms and they're doing new things every month and week and quarter, and I want them putting what they've learned into action quickly. And so it
Hmm.
really turns into coaching where we're going through like, okay, here's our next 5 meetings, or here's our next 5 solicitations, and let's role play. Let's kind of practice those tough questions that one CFO always asks when we come in.
Right.
What does that look like? And so it's pretty fun to watch the transformation. I will tell you, when people start using the tools we create and we start talking in a little different way and really make, I would say, like an intentional shift from maybe just receiving gifts to actually soliciting gifts. It's really remarkable to see, someone start having success and see where maybe money has been sitting on the table
Yeah.
and really grow by, 6 and 7 figures. It's like I really get a front seat to some pretty remarkable things.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's really cool to see what can happen when you just ask the question
Yeah,
instead of dancing around the question. And I think that a lot of people in the nonprofit space have a hard time um, with that, which is interesting. Certainly, you one would think that someone doing that much good in the world would be able to ask for help with that, but I think that there's just a human tendency to shy away from that. Either
yeah,
there's an ego play going on, or something. But yeah, just empowering people with the tools to just simply have a better ability to ask that question, I
yeah.
think is super
Yeah, and I
valuable.
think part of it, Stu, is like it's like kind of demystifying it too.
Hmm.
Um, I think even just on the board side, so many board members I hear like, I'll do anything, but don't make me ask for money.
Hmm.
And so I think people have this perception of what fundraising is, and it's going to be either begging or used car salesman, and like there's and nothing in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm kind of a true believer in demystifying what people think fundraising is, because it looks a lot like being in relationship with people and
Yep.
and really helping them see how their investment can change lives. And there's really nothing pushy about that if we take the time. And it's really, of course, coming from a real authentic place, but it doesn't look pushy and it doesn't look car salesman. And so my coach said to me a couple of months ago, like my business coach, she said, people say they hate sales, but she said, I think they hate what they think sales is. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's the same in fundraising. I think people hate what they think fundraising is.
Hmm.
But once I realized, like, oh, it's actually um, me just taking the time and being in authentic relationship and really offering this amazing opportunity to invest in an amazing mission. Who doesn't want to do that? It's actually not scary.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the power of coaching. I have discovered and am very committed to is just something that I wish more and more people would understand. And I know that there's some great language on your website around the idea of cost versus investment
Mm,
and how that mindset shift
yeah,
is so important in taking that step. Um, Tell us that story a little bit about how
yeah,
you came to that realization.
yeah. I mean, so I love that you said you're invested in coaches and like kind of bought into that. I mean, I can clearly see just as I've grown my business and I don't know, I've lost track. Am I on year 9, 10? I don't know what I'm on. But I can clearly see my growth, on a totally different, angle going up when I started investing in coaches. And was it super scary that first time when I clicked and bought some program, which now I wouldn't even flinch in doing that? But was it super scary? Yeah, it was scary, but it was actually a great exercise because in that moment, I literally remember thinking this was years ago. I remember thinking, gosh, this is what my clients feel like. Like, is this person going to get me results? Can they be trusted? This feels like a lot of money.
Hmm.
Um, and I thought, gosh, this is really almost like a good taste of my own medicine to feel how my clients feel. But like, I just quickly saw, like, wow, I had no idea I needed such objectivity and that I actually didn't know everything that I thought I knew, or that there maybe just are fresh ways to look at a problem that perhaps I've been looking at the same way for too long.
Hmm.
So I've constantly, as my business has leveled up, I've constantly leveled up my coach, and it did so again this past year. And gosh, it just pays back tenfold. And so it really inspires me to get those same results for my clients and to be able to just say to them, like, hey, I know this is a big investment. But gosh, like, and to really help them see, like, I can see that you would make this back, so quickly, or that
Hmm.
this is a sure investment. There is a good ROI on this. And I think I do feel like me talking a little bit about my business growth and as maybe you have encountered too, Stu, like the mindset work that goes behind that, and that really is such it's so similar in some of the coaching work I do with my clients.
Yeah. Yeah. My coach he has a bunch of sayings, but one of the things that he has related to me is that transformation happens in the speaking of the transformation.
Mm,
And so being able to share those wins and share those experiences just helps other people understand that they have access to that same level
yes,
of growth and the same level of positive change. And I think we have a tendency to kind of think that that's bragging or
hmm,
hide behind that. But in actuality, being able to share those wins,
yeah,
and losses, but being able to share whatever transformation is happening is what then makes that transformation even more real, and then helps spread that opportunity to others.
I love it. I love it. I'm such an advocate for having a coach, and um, I just don't flinch anymore because I just know. Um, you know what it is? I actually said to my coach the other day, I was like, well, I'm going to be an A+ student here. So I'm going to put the work in. So I
Hmm.
also know if I'm investing in something that like I'm going to be the A+ student and I'm going to put the work in, that it is 50-50, like the coach is going to teach me, but I have to take it and run with it. And It's kind of helped me articulate to some clients who've, considered hiring me, and they want to know, do I have a guarantee? I said, I guarantee you, I will teach you exactly what I taught these clients who are having these amazing results. But also at the end of the day, you have to be ready to change and grow and be open to new ways of thinking, and be open to really looking at the problem from another angle. Even though it's maybe kind of worked for you up to this point, it's not going to help your organization propel to that next level, or
Yeah.
go from 2 to 10 million, or whatever your
Yeah.
goals are.
Yeah. It's that what got you here isn't necessarily going to get you
Yes.
there
Yes.
idea, right?
Thank you for that recap. You're exactly right. For any of
Yeah.
us.
So what are some things that you have seen aside from just sharing stories that have helped people really understand that mindset shift and be able to embrace the idea that they need to invest in getting them to that next level?
Yeah. I would say one interesting area that I always start with, which sometimes surprises people because they're like, wait, aren't you the fundraising person? But there's a lot of mindset work just around money, I guess I'll say. And I think even personally, what we bring into conversations of, oh gosh, that person would never give that much, right? Or we
Mm-hmm.
certainly couldn't do that. And so, even one of the biggest transformations before we get into the fundraising work sometimes is really around just budgeting. And I have a lot of groups come to me who maybe have a whatever 20%, 25% growth initiative every year for the next 5 years, and they're in year three and they're not hitting their numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And I really have to ask, but with these strategic initiatives that you spent money on a consultant to put together, and it's great, are the expenses behind those in the budget? Because if we're not putting those expenses in the budget, how will your fundraising team be raising to the right number in the first place? And so sometimes that's a real big shift and real big mindset reframe for people to say, wait, are you telling me, like, even though I don't have, that money pledged, that like I should put it in the budget? And I 9 times out of 10, actually 10 times out of 10, I will tell you to do that because, let's just use an example here. I always use round numbers on podcasts. Let's just say your budget added up and it's 4.57. Great, board approved budget. That's great. And then sometimes I'll say, but is that one growth initiative in there, and is that one staff member that you need in there? Well, no, but how would we do that? I'll say, let's put it in so we know what your true need is. Because if
Mm-hmm.
the true need is 4.8, and oh no, we don't have a very strong reserve fund, maybe we should be putting a financing plan and a true fundraising plan in place to reach 5 million that year.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Yeah.
like, that's just like, to me it feels practical, but sometimes that's a bit of a bonkers move of like, wait, you're telling me the number we want to raise to might be different than the budget, but um well, we've never needed greater reserves than these last couple of years.
Right.
And for too long, our mindset, kind of this mindset thing is we've been told, like, try to do more on less, like try to squeeze by, try to have everybody wear too many hats. And that simply doesn't work. And so there's a lot of mindset work, I think, around the money and numbers, and just the sector, I think, has been irrationally frugal for too long, when we all know it takes
Mm-hmm.
money to grow our businesses.
Right. Well, it's like there's a scarcity mindset there as
Mhm.
opposed to an abundance mindset. And, just understanding that money is abundant and then creating that opportunity to put yourself
Yeah,
on pace to gather all of the resources that you actually need to be successful.
right, right.
It sounds like that's part of that first step.
It is, and even just you saying that, I had this it's interesting this scenario play out. Um, I guess at the beginning of the year, where I was talking to two client prospects on the same day, And I always say, oh, what did you raise this last year? What are you going to raise next year? How do you want to grow? Kind of, big question.
Mhm.
And one of the prospects, which I loved this answer, she said, well, we're just about at that 2 million mark, and I need to get to 10 million. Like, it was like, holy smokes, let's do this. It was very abundant. It was very, well, of course we will. Just help me see the path to it. Help me see what I need to be spending to be making that. Help me see the
Right.
team that I need to invest in. Help me see the board that I need to build. And I got to tell you, it was such a wonderful call to be talking to someone so growth minded and so determined to say, yeah, we're moving from 2 to 10. Can you help me? Absolutely, I can. And I'm working with that person. But the funny thing was, on that same day, it's like I talked to the next group who was a similar size. And I said, well, where do you need to grow? And it was very much, well, I don't know. Like, I don't think we could do it. We've never been able to do it. Maybe we would grow a little, like it wasn't, it was all mindset is what I'm getting at, Stu. But it was,
Mhm.
one of those will grow and scale to 10 million. And both of them can take the same path. But it really comes down to um, being open to seeing the new path and then investing in somebody who's been on that journey before to really guide you through it. Um,
Right.
yeah, so it's just so fun to help people and really reveal, like, to them in both of those cases. Well, here's how you do it. It's actually one foot from the other, and this is what it looks like. If people are brave enough to invest in the path, and really, like you were saying, with some content on my website, like really seeing it as a calculated risk. It's not risky. You're investing in your growth, and you're investing in your people, and you're investing in impacting more lives in both of those cases.
Well, right. And as it's an investment, there's a desired outcome attached to that in terms
Mhm.
of there's a return on that you're hoping to achieve. And the number of things that, well, it makes it a lot easier when you consider it as an investment
Yeah,
to look at, okay, well, maybe that worked vastly better than I was expecting it
yeah,
to, or maybe it didn't work as well as I was expecting it to. Um, but we take those kind of investment risks all the time. But when we think of them as costs, that then just becomes something that's taken out as opposed to something that's being put in.
right.
And and I think that just changing that language, and I actually wrote a blog post on this
Oh,
on my
good.
site somewhere,
Well, I'll check it out.
um, just about the seeing things as an investment instead of a cost is that first step
Yeah,
in knowing that you're making smart, calculated decisions
yeah,
to improve your current state.
yeah. It's a little. I've written many a LinkedIn post. I'm on LinkedIn a lot. I think that's maybe how we connected. But
Yeah.
um, it's a little bit. And I write this all the time. It's not even my services. It might be website. It might be, I don't know, accounting or something. Um, so often the knee jerk is, well, that's not in the budget, and it's like, but hold on a second. We just said we want to grow by 25%. We just said we have these strategic initiatives we can't get to. And so those two statements don't add up of, well, that's not in the budget, and gosh, we really want to grow, because it really does take that investment and that spend to yield more dollars. And I think like that shift in mindset is, many people get it, which is great. I love working with those people, but sometimes the leader, the executive director, might totally get it and is completely on board, but maybe the board is not so sure.
Hmm.
And so it just depends. There's, who do we have to convince or educate? I'd say, is kind of different depending on the day, but it's crucial. It's crucial.
Yeah, it's I was just reflecting on that mindset piece and how important it is to really like you said, just budget for it.
Hmm.
Just say, look, we want to grow this much, and it's going to require this much investment to do that.
Right.
And as long as those numbers aren't, flip flop the the wrong direction,
Yeah.
and there's a reasonable, reasonable numbers attached to both of those outcomes,
Yeah.
or those inputs, then everything's good.
Yeah. And I'm, and don't hear me saying like, oh, triple your budget. Like I would never
Yeah.
advise anybody to do that. But I do find that sometimes the reason we aren't growing, or our funding has plateaued, has way more to do with the spend versus the raise. And so that's why I always start with budget. It surprises people a little bit, but it really is the key to setting up the team, to reach or exceed your true budgeted need.
Hmm.
And then I'll just want to say one other thing on this kind of budget topic or need topic. Um, I always find that a lot of investment level donors, mid and major level donors, who might be in our donor file, they don't always know we need more money.
Hmm.
And it's always a funny conversation of like, do we think they know we need more money? And it's like, well, we're a nonprofit, Sherry. Of course they know we need money. But so often I find that donors don't truly understand the need. And sometimes that's because of what we're doing or how we're articulating. Well, we hope to raise 4.6, or we'd like to do that. And, two million of it is government funds. And so we're hoping, versus really owning and sitting at the table and saying, we have a $5 million need this year. Can I walk you through what that looks like? When my clients move from kind of reactive, like, well, we hope we could or we'd like to
Hmm.
really articulating with confidence a plan, and really almost inviting that person along on the journey with us, it's amazing to me how many donors say, what? I didn't know you needed that, or why haven't you asked me that? Or I had no idea you were this big. I didn't understand how you were funded. And so I always pause and say, do your donors know you need money? Which really goes back to, have you had an honest moment with yourself to really, really know financially what the organization needs to do X, Y, and Z this year? And so often there's a disconnect there. And gosh, our investment level donors, they need to know that. They're dying for information about our financials. Not saying that it's more important than story and impact and change lives. Of course, that's a huge part of it. But there's a financial story, and there's a are you a good investment story that has to be told, that so often I find that fundraisers skip because they think donors don't want to know that, but they do.
Yeah, it's amazing what people don't know, and how that affects what they're willing to give. I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of like the value proposition, right?
Mm,
When value is so relative. Um, you know,
yes.
where one person may perceive something as worth X, another person is, perhaps willing to spend 3X on that same
Right.
thing because it brings them, so much, so much joy. I mean, if you're incredibly hungry, a pizza's worth way more than
You're so
$7 or
right.
whatever a pizza goes for, right?
Yeah.
And so, just to communicating that and
Mhm.
communicating that, I love this idea of starting with the budget and what you need,
Mhm.
what budget is required to meet the needs that you have,
Right.
as opposed to, even just kind of wishing for some sort of growth. Be like, look, we want to go to here, and we're going to need these 3 people, so we're putting that in the budget, and we're going to go get it.
Yeah.
um, is just that's super cool.
Yeah. And then of course we got to do different things, right? We can't just put it in the budget and kind of just hustle harder, or try to crank a little bit more out of that appeal. We can have confidence in doing it that way when we learn then how to do new things, and to know that we are stop doing some things and starting to do other things. We're playing off of a different instrument, at that point. But I
Mhm.
think like the biggest thing I'll tell people is, um, with that kind of value proposition, I like that angle. Is the best part of fundraising is like, especially with individuals, we don't actually need uh, to know what that person's best gift is. It's actually none of our business.
Right.
Our job is really to articulate the need and to fully share the need and to really lead them to an opportunity where they might give their best gift,
Yeah.
or that we've answered every question in their mind, so that they're like, oh, I want to give my best gift and I want to give that every year.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. If you ask them
yeah,
to give $20, they're probably going to give $20.
exactly,
If you ask them to
exactly.
give what they think this is this is worth to them,
Yeah,
then you could get 20 grand.
you're so right. And I always have this concept of or, I was taught forever ago, that we really do, we want all of our donors giving their best gift. And so exactly what you just said, so often, somebody's like, yeah, I'm giving $25 a month. Well, that's what they asked me to do. When that donor, A, might not understand the need, and B, may have way greater capacity, but like we're just serving them down there as a monthly donor. And down the road, they might be writing $25,000 checks. And so, there's such an important, just again, I guess it's mindset shift of really pausing and saying, is this donor giving their best gift? Gosh, if they're not, what don't they understand?
Mhm.
Are they just coming to our event every year and writing that $1,000 check? Because if they are giving that check at an event, it's not their best gift. We need to be soliciting our donors one on one when possible and when they have that capacity. And so there's just a lot of very practical things we can be doing, but um, it's really where I do see money left on the table. I
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I have a client who added 7 figures of general operating to his bottom line in the last 18 months, simply because he heard me say that concept actually on a podcast. And he called me and said, Sherry, you said something, and I don't think our donors are giving their best gift. I think we have great donors, but I just can kind of guarantee that they're not. And so, I just use him as an example because we really worked hard. It's not quick, right? It's 18 months,
Right.
but um, like most of those gifts and that growth of 7 figures, like, were from donors who already were giving to them. That's how much
Right.
money was sitting on the table, from individuals, from in the form of family foundations, and kind of pivoting into something a bit more relational with them, or a lot of gala sponsorships that we worked so hard to shift into mission aligned gifts, that moved from $50,000 gala sponsorships to $100,000 unrestricted gifts.
Right.
And so it's not an easy thing, but I see people make that shift every day, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, it really is. And it's just so interesting how reluctant people are to go back to those relationships. And that's usually for really any organization, going back to people who have engaged with you in the past
Hmm.
is your fastest route
Yeah,
uh, to revenue gains. And it's certainly not as exciting as landing a new relationship, or creating a new opportunity, but it's just solid in there, and it's all about that relationship piece.
yeah, and
Um,
that's really that. Like, it's best gift every year, best gift every year. Why wouldn't that donor? Why wouldn't they want to give every year, right? If they really understand your plans, they really understand what you're doing, your programs, they really understand your financial need. Why wouldn't we assume they want to give every year? If we're taking the time to build a relationship, we're taking the time, really treating them as stakeholders,
mhm.
and really seeing that this relationship is a win-win. Like, let's assume they want to give again. And so I think that has a lot to do with thanking and impact reporting and really using that step to really impress upon that donor how well their gift was used and how lives were changed, and really use that step in the donor experience to lead that donor to their next gift. It's a huge area of, I think, of like low hanging fruit for organizations, to really use that thanking and impact reporting step to lead that donor to their next gift, so that you don't have
Hmm.
to kind of try to figure out why to call them next. Or
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that? If I'm thinking back when I get called to either up my engagement with an organization or donate, and they usually start with a number,
Hmm.
um, in terms of, can we can we get you to give
Right.
$50 or
Right.
whatever. But that's potentially leaving out the opportunity for me to give my best gift.
Right.
What do you recommend to
Oh my goodness, Stu.
nonprofit
One of my
fundraisers that
favorite
are doing
favorite topics here.
it?
Um, so I guess I'll answer that maybe a little less at the $50 level and more at the maybe mid or major level. So
Sure.
just yeah, I'm a believer in having some tools in hand, that you can really lead a donor to an open conversation about what their best gift might look like, and
Hmm.
presenting the need in a way that helps them see like the types and sizes of gifts that the organization is looking for. I'm not a real believer in saying, I know you gave 5,000 last year, so could you give 7,500 this year? Um,
Right.
and I'm not a believer in that. I shouldn't say believer, but like I don't always advocate for that methodology, because um, I've sat in meetings where, it was what, in the olden days when we weren't on Zoom all day long, which olden days, I guess 2019, I got to go sit in some solicitations, and I saw gifts go from like $10,000 to six-figure gifts. Um, and they're just like, wait, what? Wow, we didn't know this was your need. We didn't know all of these things.
Hmm.
And gosh, I think like if we would have come up with the number, we might have said, could you go from 10 to 20 or 10 to
Sure.
30?
Yep.
And so I just am until we really get so deep, that we're having such an open conversation that they're like, no, really, that's my max. I don't want our preconceived thoughts about what they can or cannot give get in the way. So I'm just a real believer in articulating the need, and asking for their best gift, and really leading them, to a deep understanding of what that could look like. Um, and I find that donors' gifts grow tremendously more. Um, a little cousin comment, if you don't mind me making on this topic, which I don't know, might be controversial to some people, but it's a little bit of a same or the same tone that I feel about, a board's give get. I just see so much money left on the table with give
Right.
gets, where, I had a client recently tell me that they had a new board member. They're excited about this person, and I think maybe their give my client's was maybe a, I don't know, maybe a 10K give get. And this person was like, "Oh, okay, that's all you need. My last board I was on was a $20,000 give get." And it was literally like, "Oh, you don't need me to give as much."
Right. Right.
And so I just feel like even with our board members, is the give get their best gift, or is it keeping them in a box? Are you soliciting for their best gift, even if they have it, even if you have a give get? So often, I see board members' gifts grow because they don't even understand the full need of the organization.
Right.
So I don't know. I just bring that up because it really, the fundraiser or the solicitor, um, has way more control of that kind of gift timing and gift size than you think. But we got to be open to kind of breaking through some of the old transactional and traditional methods that really don't suit our growth plans anymore.
Right. Are you tying that to, so I'm assuming that the conversation is really, it's storytelling
Mm-hmm.
and not only discussing the need, but the outcomes that will be generated when you achieve that need.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, I sometimes I've been guilty of pivoting right into like the finance talk and the ask, and yeah, of course, there's the whole storytelling element. We want to make sure they're mission aligned, and their mission for giving is our mission, and taking, I mean, months, years sometimes to do that. Yeah, and then when people are giving gifts to really help that donor see the impact of their gift, and how can we do that in a real exclusive or customized way that really is rewarding from a heart sense. That their gift was used well, and gosh, I want to give again. And so I feel like, yes, of course, there's mission story, there's all the storytelling, um, but or maybe where I see money left on the table is when we leave it there, when we say, yeah, it was a great meeting. They loved what we do. I think I saw tears in their eyes, and they said they'd make a gift, right? And then we get the gift in the mail, and we're like, oh, it's only $5,000. I thought they'd give $100,000.
Right.
And so like the part of the story that was left out was, hey, can I share with you how we're growing? Can I share with you what our need is? And to actually like not miss a beat and pivot right into that, and explain, in essence, your finances in confidence, and to really show how different parts of it tie back to impact, and to really not miss a beat and have that be very fluid, and I do just find that people stop short, and an investment level donors need not only the mission story, but they need the financial story. They want to know that their investment is spent well. And I always tell people who I'm coaching, if we think of who these people are, likely, um, they're entrepreneurs, business leaders, leaders in the community, running, in many cases, their own successful businesses. They've probably had to sit down and ask for investments too. They've had to really talk about their plans, and the money they need for their plans. So speak their language. Like, this is their language.
Right.
Meet them where they are. Have that CEO to CEO conversation. Because like, what an opportunity, A, and B, if nobody else is doing it, gosh, it really sets your organization apart. It really helps them see you as transparent, and forthcoming, and someone with a plan that I want to invest in something that has a plan. And
Yeah,
so it's so
absolutely.
good. Like, it's a win-win in that situation.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. So if somebody were to be interested in working with you, what are some of the things that they should have teed up in terms of, where are they in their growth?
Yeah.
What are some of the problems that they're bumping up against that you help bring clarity to?
Yeah. I would say problems that are maybe presenting themselves would be, we're raising a good amount of money, but there's still cash flow issues.
Hmm.
I have $10 million organizations come to me who struggle with payroll sometimes, because it's too restrictive. Perhaps, you're growing, but like it's you're growing in restricted funding.
Okay.
Another thing would just be that I think what I said was, we have a strategic plan, but like we can't ever seem to do all the great things in it, because you do need that flexibility. And so oftentimes EDs come to me because they've got great development staff who know how to write grant reports, know how to plan events, know how to send appeals, but they've never ever had to learn how to do major gift work, and it's time for that. And
Right.
so, if you didn't get the sense in our conversation today, I want people who want to invest in growth and have great growth plans and great missions, and they really just do need the revenue to match their big visions.
Right. Right. I love that. I love that change in idea, coming at it from the, what do we need to get us there? And let's go for that.
It's a game changer.
Yeah, for sure. So I can't believe it's been an hour since we started talking. This is amazing. And it was such a great time chatting with you today.
Thank you.
How can people find out more about you and get in touch if they're interested in engaging?
Well, hop on my website, which is quamtaylor.com. It's my maiden and my married name mushed together. And then I'd also say I'm on LinkedIn every single day, and engaging and sharing content there first. So go over and find me on LinkedIn, and we'll have a conversation.
That sounds amazing. I will share those links in the show notes as well.
Thanks, Stu.
So I love having these kinds of conversations and talking through things, but I'm also really committed to being, a person that inspires action.
Yes.
So if someone has listened to our show today, what action item would you want them to take to get them on their way to making the world a better place?
I would say that there's never been a more important time, or I'll say maybe even like a wider window or door to walk through, where I think donors and funders are open to hearing different ideas and maybe are moving some of the old misconceptions to the side. And so I just really encourage people to go for it, to walk into those scary, that feel risky elements, and really really commit to doing things differently, and to growing your business at greater strides, because there's just never been a more important time. And I take every opportunity to say, gosh, aren't we so thankful how nonprofits just like stood up and stood in the gap for our communities and our state and our nation in these last couple of years. And so own it, be a big deal, own it, ask for what you need, and assume that people want to support you in that manner.
I love it. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I had such a good time talking with you, and am excited to hear what's next for you.
Likewise, Stu. Thanks for having me on.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye. And there you have it, another great episode of Relish This. Thanks again for listening. You can find past episodes of the show at relishthis.org. And remember, if you liked what you heard today, please subscribe and leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. For more information on purpose marketing, grab your free copy of my book, Mission Uncomfortable: How Nonprofits Can Embrace Purpose-Driven Marketing to Survive and Thrive. Get your copy now at missionuncomfortablebook.com. Thanks again for listening. Come back next week, won't you?